There is a unique kind of pain that does not leave scars on the skin, but etches wounds deep into the soul. It is not the pain of a stranger's betrayal or the wound of an enemy's attack. It is the agony of being forsaken by the very people who were meant to love you the most. The pain of being left behind by family, the ones whose love was supposed to be unconditional, is a burden so heavy that it feels as if your spirit itself has shattered. You did not ask for much, only the warmth of a home, the shelter of love, the comfort of knowing that when the world turned against you, your family would stand beside you. But when the storm came, when you fell to your knees and needed their hands to lift you, they walked away. Not only did they walk away, but some of them even mocked your struggle. They turned their backs when you cried out for help, leaving you to suffer alone. Did they think God was not watching? Did they believe their actions would go unnoticed? The very heavens bore witness to your tears. The walls of your empty room heard your silent cries. The earth itself carried the weight of your suffering. And yet, in the depths of your despair, you felt a presence, gentle, unseen, but unwavering. It was God whispering, "You are not alone." God does not turn away from the forsaken. The same family that cast you aside may have thought they were freeing themselves of a burden, but what they did not realize is that they were removing themselves from the blessing that God had placed upon your life. You see, when men reject you, heaven embraces you. When those bound to you by blood choose to break that bond, the divine steps in to remind you that your true identity has never been rooted in their acceptance. It has always been in God's purpose for you. There is a passage of Scripture that echoes through eternity. "When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up." Do you hear that? The Lord himself will take you up. He will lift you from the depths of your pain, from the shadows of rejection, and set you upon a rock so firm that no human betrayal can shake you. And as time passes, the scales of justice begin to tip. The family who left you when you had nothing will one day look upon your life and see the undeniable hand of God. They will see how you survived, how you flourished, how you became stronger despite their absence, and regret will settle into their hearts like a weight they cannot shake. Because here is a truth they failed to understand: God does not forsake the forsaken. When they turned their backs on you, they unknowingly placed themselves on the side of loss. What they thought was your downfall was, in reality, your deliverance. What they thought was your end was the very beginning of your transformation. Look at Joseph, the young man whose own brothers threw him into a pit, selling him into slavery, believing they had erased him from their lives forever. But what happened? God was with him. The rejection of his own bloodline did not hinder the purpose that heaven had ordained for him. And in the end, those same brothers who cast him away came before him humbled, desperate, and filled with regret. This is the way of divine justice. Those who betray, those who abandon, those who look upon the suffering of their own and do nothing, one day they will face the consequences of their actions, because God is a just God, and he does not allow suffering to be wasted. He does not permit the pain of the innocent to be ignored. But here is where your faith is tested. Can you trust God enough to let go of the pain? Can you believe that he has a greater plan beyond what your heart can see? The ones who hurt you will one day feel the weight of what they have done, but your destiny is not to dwell in that moment. Your destiny is to rise beyond it. It is easy to seek revenge, to wish upon them the same suffering they placed upon you. But the most powerful thing you can do is rise above it. to grow into the person they never believed you could be, to walk in the fullness of the purpose they once tried to strip away from you. And when the day comes that they look upon you with regret in their eyes, when they realize that they lost someone whom God had chosen, you will know in your heart that you never needed their approval to begin with. Because you were never abandoned by God. You were never truly alone. The rejection of your family was not a curse. It was an act of divine redirection. It was God pulling you away from those who could not see your worth, placing you on a path where you could be molded, strengthened, and prepared for something greater. And now the choice is yours. Will you remain chained to the pain of their abandonment, or will you step forward into the destiny that God has prepared for you? Will you let their rejection define your life, or will you let God's justice unfold in its own time, trusting that He is the one who writes the final chapter? Their regret is inevitable, but your healing is a choice, and today you stand at the threshold of something greater than you ever imagined. Step forward, walk away from the pain, and step into the future God has been preparing for you all along. The pain they inflicted returns to them. Pain is not a thing that simply disappears into the wind. It does not vanish when ignored, nor does it fade when covered with excuses. Pain is a seed, and like all seeds, it takes root and grows. When your own family turned their backs on you, when they wounded you with their words, their neglect, and their rejection, they believed that their actions would be without consequence. They thought they could walk away from you without ever facing the weight of what they had done. But they were wrong. You see, God is not blind. He is not deaf to the cries of the abandoned. He is not unmoved by the pain of those who have been betrayed by the very people who should have protected them. When they hurt you, they set something in motion, a spiritual law that cannot be undone by apologies or regret. The pain they caused you will return to them, not because you wished it upon them, but because justice is woven into the very fabric of creation. Think back to all the nights you lay awake, wondering why they treated you as if you did not matter. The days you walked alone, carrying burdens too heavy for one person to bear, while they went about their lives as if you never existed. They dismissed you, disregarded you, and made you feel invisible. But time has a way of circling back, and God has a way of ensuring that no wound inflicted goes unanswered. Perhaps, in their arrogance, they believed that they were exempt from consequence. Maybe they laughed at your struggles, confident that you would never rise above the pain they left you with. But as the years pass, they will come to understand a truth they once ignored. What they did to you will be done to them. The rejection they made you feel will find its way into their own lives. The abandonment they forced upon you will return to them at a time when they least expect it. They will feel the sting of betrayal, perhaps not in the same way they delivered it to you, but in a way that cuts just as deeply. It may come through a child who turns away from them in their time of need. It may come through the loss of relationships they once held dear. It may even come through the realization, too late, that they threw away someone who was a blessing in their life. This is not about revenge. This is about divine order. God repays. He does not forget. And when He moves, it is not out of malice, but out of righteousness. He allows them to experience the pain they inflicted, not to destroy them, but to open their eyes, to make them understand the depth of their wrongdoing. And when that moment comes, when they feel the weight of their own actions pressing down upon them, they will think of you. They will remember the tears you cried, the moments you reached out for help and were ignored, and in that moment, regret will settle into their bones like a cold they cannot shake. But by then, you will no longer be where they left you. you will have healed. You will have risen above the ashes of their betrayal. And, while they are caught in the web of their own actions, you will be walking in the favor of the very God who saw your suffering and never left your side. They will experience the loneliness they once left you in. Loneliness is a heavy burden, especially when it is unexpected. The people who abandoned you in your darkest moments did not believe they would ever feel the same emptiness they forced upon you. They believed that life would go on, that their choice to leave you behind would have no lasting impact on their own existence. But the truth is, what we give to others, we ultimately receive in return. When you cried out for help, they turned their faces away. When you needed comfort, they dismissed your pain. They treated you as if you were a stranger, as if your struggles were not worth their time or concern. And now, in the quiet moments of their own lives, when the people they depended on turn away, they will begin to understand the loneliness they once left you to endure. It may not happen immediately. At first, they may feel justified in their actions, believing that walking away from you was the right decision. But as time moves forward, life will begin to shift in ways they never anticipated. The relationships they once trusted will begin to change. The people they relied on will begin to distance themselves. And slowly, the same isolation they forced upon you will creep into their own hearts. There is something profound about loneliness. It strips away all illusions. It forces a person to confront themselves, to reflect on the choices they have made. When they sat comfortably in their lives, ignoring your pain, they never considered the possibility that one day they might find themselves in the same position. But now, as they reach out for companionship, for support, for love, and find only silence in return, they will remember. They will remember the nights you spent alone, the moments you longed for a kind word but received nothing. They will remember the times you needed their presence, but they were too consumed with their own lives to care. And as the weight of that realization settles upon them, regret will follow closely behind. This is not a punishment. It is a lesson. God allows people to walk through the consequences of their actions so they can see the truth. He allows them to experience the emptiness they once imposed upon others, so that they may come to understand the value of love, of kindness, of standing by those who need them. And in their moments of solitude, as they sit with the echoes of their past choices, they will wish they had done things differently. They will wish they had held on instead of letting go, that they had supported instead of abandoning. They will realize too late that family is not something to be cast aside when inconvenient. But by then you will have learned the most important lesson of all. You never needed them to complete you. You never needed their approval, their acceptance, or their validation to walk in the purpose God had for you. Their absence did not break you. It refined you. Their rejection did not define you. It freed you. And now, as they sit in their loneliness, longing for the connection they once discarded, you will be walking in the light of God's favor, stronger than you ever imagined. They will see you rise without them. When they left you, they assumed you would crumble. They believed that without their presence, without their approval, you would falter and remain in the darkness of your pain. They did not expect you to heal. They did not expect you to grow, and they certainly did not expect you to rise. But that is the nature of God's power. He takes the broken and makes them whole. He takes those rejected by man and elevates them before the very eyes of those who abandoned them. What they failed to understand was that their rejection was never your end. It was the beginning of your transformation. At first, the pain of their abandonment felt unbearable. You wondered if you could make it without them. You questioned your worth, replaying every moment of betrayal, trying to understand why the people who were supposed to love you the most were the ones who hurt you the deepest. But in the silence of your loneliness, you found something greater: God's presence. You began to heal, slowly at first, like a wound that aches long before it closes. But healing came. Strength returned. And step by step, you started to rebuild the life they thought they had destroyed. They may not have seen it happen. They may not have noticed the quiet moments of resilience, the prayers whispered in the darkness, the determination that grew in your spirit. But soon, they will. One day they will look at your life and realize that you no longer need them. The person they left behind no longer exists. The broken version of you, the one they abandoned, has transformed into someone they do not even recognize, someone strong, independent, and blessed beyond measure. And this is where their regret begins to settle. There is no pain quite like watching the one you underestimated become greater than you ever imagined. They will see you rise in ways they never expected. They will hear your name spoken in rooms they never thought you would enter. They will witness the doors open for you that they never believed you could walk through, and it will shake them to their core. Because the truth is, they thought they held power over your destiny. They assumed that their absence would define your failure, but what they did not realize is that God was always your source, not them, not their approval, not their validation. The same God who watched over you in your suffering is the God who is now elevating you beyond their comprehension. They will try to make sense of it. They will wonder how you managed to succeed without them. They will ask themselves how someone they discarded could shine so brightly. And deep down they will know their rejection was the very thing that positioned you for your breakthrough. But by the time they realize this, it will be too late. They will see you rising, but they will not be able to stop it. They will watch your success unfold, but they will no longer be a part of it. And that will be their greatest regret. Their own relationships will mirror their actions. Life is a reflection of what we give to others. The energy we pour into people, whether good or bad, has a way of returning to us. The ones who abandoned you, who walked away when you needed them the most, never thought their actions would come back to them. They believed they could turn their backs on you and never feel the sting of that same pain. But God does not allow injustice to go unanswered. The betrayal they inflicted upon you will echo into their own relationships, and they will begin to experience the very suffering they once ignored. It may not happen immediately. At first they will continue their lives as if nothing happened. They will justify their actions, convincing themselves that leaving you behind was necessary or that you were the problem. But life has a way of teaching lessons, and the lesson they are about to learn will be one they never expected. One day they will find themselves in the very position they placed you in. The same abandonment they forced upon you will return to them in ways they cannot control. It may come through their own children, who turn away when they need love the most. It may come through the loss of friendships, as those they trust begin to drift away. It may come through relationships that crumble, leaving them alone in the same emptiness they once made you feel. And when this happens, they will think of you. They will remember the pain they dismissed, the tears they ignored, and the suffering they refused to acknowledge. They will finally understand what it feels like to be left behind, to feel worthless in the eyes of someone who should have cared. At first they may try to deny it. They will blame circumstances, make excuses, try to justify why they are experiencing the same abandonment they once imposed upon you. But deep down they will know. They will know that this is the mirror of their own actions. God does not punish, He teaches. He allows people to feel the pain they once inflicted so they can understand the weight of their decisions. He lets them experience the loneliness they caused, not to destroy them, but to open their eyes. But by the time they realize this, it will be too late to undo the damage. They will reach for the same hands they once rejected, but they will find nothing but silence. They will call out for comfort, but the same coldness they gave to you will now be their own. And in that moment, regret will consume them. They will finally understand that relationships are not disposable, that the way we treat others matters, that abandonment is not just a single action, it is a wound that echoes into the future, shaping lives in ways they never anticipated. But by the time this truth reaches their hearts, they will already be standing in the ruins of the choices they made. The relationships they once depended on will crumble, and they will be forced to face the loneliness they once left you in. And when they look back, they will see you not as the broken person they abandoned, but as the one who rose beyond them. And they will know, with certainty, that they were the ones who truly lost. The weight of regret will crush them. Regret is a silent tormentor. It does not announce its arrival, nor does it pass quickly. It lingers, growing heavier with time, settling deep within the soul of those who have wronged others. The ones who abandoned you, the family who turned their backs when you needed them most, never thought they would one day carry the burden of regret. They walked away without a second thought, convinced that their decision to leave you behind was justified. At first they may have felt relief. Maybe they told themselves that they had no choice, that cutting you off was necessary, or that you would be fine on your own. They distracted themselves with their own lives, with their own concerns, while you were left to navigate the storm alone. And while they moved forward, you were left in the darkness, trying to understand how the people you once trusted could abandon you so easily. But here's what they never considered: time does not erase betrayal. It does not wash away the consequences of hurting someone who depended on them. And as the years pass, as their lives unfold, regret will creep in like a shadow, growing stronger with each realization of what they lost. It will begin subtly. At first it will be nothing more than a fleeting thought: I wonder how they're doing. They will hear your name in passing, maybe see a picture of you, or stumble across a reminder of the past, and for the first time, a whisper of guilt will settle in. They will brush it off, convincing themselves that they did what was best, that you have likely forgotten about them just as they tried to forget about you. But regret does not fade, it deepens. One day they will hear about your success. They will see that you did not just survive, without them you thrived. And that is when the weight will begin to crush them. They will realize that while they were living their lives thinking they had left you in the dust, you were rising. The person they abandoned became stronger than they ever imagined. The person they dismissed and belittled found a path far greater than they expected. And it will dawn on them: they lost someone irreplaceable. There is a specific kind of pain that comes with knowing you were wrong, with realizing that you made a mistake that cannot be undone. They will not be able to go back in time. They will not be able to rewrite the past. And as they sit in their quiet moments, thinking of you, they will wish they had chosen differently. At night, when they lay in bed, the thoughts will come in waves. What if I had stayed? What if I had supported them instead of abandoning them? What if I had been there when they needed me? These thoughts will not go away. They will replay over and over, a relentless reminder of their own actions. And here's the most painful truth they will have to face: they cannot undo what has been done. Perhaps they will try. Maybe one day regret will drive them to reach out, to send a message or make a call, hoping for reconciliation. But deep down, they will know that things will never be the same. They will hope to be forgiven, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. They will hope to be welcomed back, but the bridge they burned has long since turned to ashes. They will watch your life from the outside, knowing that they no longer have a place in it, and that realization will break them. Because regret is not just about guilt, it is about the painful awareness that you had something valuable, and you threw it away. It is the understanding that you were given love, trust, and loyalty, and instead of cherishing it, you walked away. It is the torment of knowing that you once had the chance to be there for someone who truly needed you, and you failed them. And so they will live with it, day after day, year after year, carrying the weight of their choices. Some wounds can be healed, but regret is a wound that does not fade. It is a prison of the mind, a constant reminder of the damage they inflicted. They will watch you from afar, witnessing your happiness, your strength, your success, and knowing that they were never meant to be on the outside looking in. But that is where they placed themselves when they turned away. And the weight of that truth will be heavier than they ever imagined. They will seek your forgiveness, but it will no longer matter. At some point, when the weight of regret becomes unbearable, when the pain of their own choices begins to suffocate them, they will try to return. The ones who walked away, the ones who left you to suffer alone, will suddenly feel the need to reach out. Not because they have suddenly rediscovered love for you, but because the consequences of their actions have finally caught up to them. It may begin with hesitation. A message left unsent, a phone number dialed and then erased before pressing call. They will wrestle with their own pride, unsure of how to bridge the distance they created. But eventually, when their loneliness becomes too heavy, when their own suffering mirrors the pain they once dismissed, they will take the first step toward reconciliation. But here's the truth: they are not coming back because they want to fix what was broken. They are coming back because they are broken. They will seek your forgiveness, not out of true remorse, but because they want relief from the torment of their own guilt. The same people who left you behind will now want to be part of your life. The same ones who ignored your pain will now wish to share in your peace. They will attempt to rewrite history, acting as if their betrayal was not as cruel as it truly was. They will try to justify their absence, saying they didn't know better, that they were confused, that they made mistakes. But the reality is, they knew what they were doing when they walked away. They knew you needed them, and they chose to leave anyway. They did not just forget about you, they dismissed you, convinced that you were not important enough to fight for. And now, when they find themselves in a place of loss, they suddenly remember your worth. But by then, it will no longer matter. Because while they were gone, you changed, you healed, you grew into a person who no longer needs their validation, their approval, or their presence. The person they abandoned no longer exists. Once, their absence left a void in your heart. Their rejection felt like a wound that would never heal. But over time, as God restored you, as He strengthened you, you came to understand something profound. Their absence was necessary. Had they stayed, you might have continued seeking their love, hoping they would change. Had they stayed, you might have remained dependent on people who never truly valued you. But God removed them, not to punish you, but to set you free. And now, as they stand before you, asking for the forgiveness they once believed they would never need, you will realize something. They no longer hold power over you. Their words no longer have the ability to wound you. Their regret does not move you, because you have already made peace with the past, not by their apology, but by God's healing. Yes, forgiveness is important, but forgiveness does not mean restoring what was lost. It does not mean allowing them back into your life as if nothing happened. Some people are meant to remain in the past, not because you are bitter, but because their season in your life has ended. They will hope for a second chance. They will try to reconnect, believing that time has erased the pain they caused. But time does not erase betrayal. It only reveals its depth. And now they must live with the reality that while they were gone, you became someone they can no longer reach. This is the price of their choices. Not because you wished them harm, not because you sought revenge, but because life has a way of ensuring that we reap what we sow. And when they finally understand this, when they look into your eyes and realize that their return means nothing to you anymore, they will feel a loss greater than they ever imagined. Because now they need you, but you no longer need them. God's justice is never late. There are moments in life when we wonder if justice will ever come, when the people who wronged us seem to move forward without consequence, when those who abandoned us appear to prosper while we are left to pick up the shattered pieces of our hearts. It can feel as if God has turned a blind eye. You may have cried out in the silence of your suffering, asking, "God, do you see this? Do you see what they did to me? Will there ever be justice?" And in those moments, when heaven seems silent, doubt creeps in. You wonder if God will ever set things right. You wonder if those who betrayed you will ever feel the weight of their actions. But let me tell you this with absolute certainty. God's justice is never late. It may not come when you expect it. It may not unfold in the way you imagine, but it will come. And when it does, it will be undeniable. The people who hurt you thought they had escaped the consequences of their betrayal. They believed that walking away from you was a decision without repercussions, that their abandonment of you would fade into nothingness. But what they failed to understand is that God does not forget. He saw you when you were at your lowest. He saw the nights you spent alone, the prayers you whispered through tears, the moments you doubted whether you could endure another day of carrying the pain they left you with. And He did not ignore you. He was working. Justice does not always arrive in the form of immediate retribution. It does not always look like a dramatic downfall. Sometimes divine justice comes slowly, creeping into the lives of those who once thought they were untouchable. It manifests in the realization that they lost someone irreplaceable. It unfolds in the broken relationships, the missed opportunities, the moments of regret that haunt them in their solitude. They may have moved on as if nothing happened, but time is a powerful revealer of truth. What seemed like an easy decision to them, walking away from you, abandoning you in your darkest hour, will one day stand as the greatest mistake of their lives. And when they come to that realization, it will be too late. Because the way God enacts justice is not always through punishment, but through revelation. He allows people to come to terms with the truth, not just the truth of what they did, but the truth of who they lost. He lets them see with painful clarity that their actions were not just a fleeting decision, but a defining moment that reshaped their destiny. They will look around and find that the same comfort they denied you is now denied to them. They will search for the same love they once refused to give, only to realize it is out of their reach. They will witness your strength, your growth, your success, and understand that the person they abandoned did not need them after all. And that is the justice of God. It is not about destruction, but awakening. It is about opening their eyes to the reality that their betrayal was not just a wound inflicted upon you, but a loss that cost them more than they ever anticipated. You see, God does not operate on human timelines. He is not rushed by our impatience, nor is He moved by our desperation for immediate justice. He works with precision, ensuring that every consequence is perfectly measured, every lesson is fully realized. And when the time is right, when the moment comes that they must face the truth of their actions, they will see that what they thought they had escaped was merely waiting for its appointed time. And by then, you will have changed. You will no longer be the person who longed for their apology. You will no longer be the person who needed their validation. While they are just beginning to feel the sting of their own choices, you will already be walking in the blessings that God prepared for you. They will watch from the sidelines, wishing they had chosen differently. They will feel the full weight of what it means to have walked away from someone who was meant to be in their life, and they will finally understand that God's justice is not about revenge. It is about restoration. It is about restoration. Justice comes when they see you rise. Justice comes when they realize that their absence did not break you, it built you. Justice comes when they understand that their betrayal was not your downfall, but their own. Because God saw everything, and His justice is never late. Everything that has happened, every tear you have shed, every moment of abandonment you have endured, it was never unnoticed. The pain they caused you, the rejection you suffered, the silence that surrounded you when you needed love the most, God saw it all. And because He saw it, because He is a just God, their actions will not go unanswered. You may have once believed that their presence in your life was necessary, that their love was something you could not live without. But look at yourself now. Look at how far you have come, at the strength you have built, at the resilience that now defines you. You are no longer the person they left behind. You have risen from the ashes of their betrayal, not because of them, but in spite of them. They will look at you and regret. They will remember the moments when they could have stood by you, when they could have chosen love instead of selfishness. And they will feel the weight of their choices pressing down on them. They will wish they could turn back time. But some mistakes cannot be undone. Some absences cannot be filled. Some wounds heal, but the relationships that cause them never recover. And as they stand in the ruins of their own choices, longing for a place in your life once more, you will have already moved on. Not with bitterness, not with revenge in your heart, but with the peace that comes from knowing that God is your defender, that He has carried you through the darkest of times and led you into a future that no betrayal could destroy. So walk forward. Let the past remain where it belongs. You do not need their apology to heal. You do not need their validation to grow. You were never abandoned. You were protected. Their absence was not your punishment. It was your deliverance. And now you stand in the light of your own destiny, free from the weight of their rejection, walking into the life that God had planned for you all along. This is your moment. This is your victory. They lost you, but you did not lose yourself. And that, my friend, is the greatest justice of all. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stay strong, stay faithful, and remember, God is always on your side.